So in the last episode, we did create the database called marks, and in this episode, we want to proceed and create the three tables that are contained inside of this marks database, as it were. So you remember that when we created our marks database, it actually showed down here under the navigator window. And this is our database, as it were. So if we click on tables, actually we don't get to see anything right there. So we should now create some tables for this particular database. So what we need to do is, you'll notice that we have a couple of databases going on in here. So in my SQL workbench, it's actually necessary for us to specify the table, or rather the database that we want to create tables for. So maybe I can just comment this out because we no longer need to create a database called marks because we already have it going on there. Maybe what we need to do is we need to specify, or we need to tell the MySQL engine that we want to make use of the marks database, as it were. So the way to go about it is to make use of the use keyword and specify the database that we want to use. So here we want to use the marks database, so we say use marks. Then we are going to run that query, and you see that we get a green check mark, meaning to say that we are now working with the with the marks database, as it were. And you also know that we are working with that database because it's now highlighted in that bold font right there in the navigator pane, as it were. So it means that anything that we are going to be doing from here onwards is going to be affecting the marks database, as it were. So I can just comment that line out. So let's go ahead and create the table. The first table, according to the paper here, is the student table. Then we have the test table, and we have that junction table called student test. That's essentially linking the two tables, as it were. So let's go ahead and write that query for creating the student table. So create table student, then we put some parentheses, as it were. Then we might as well put that ending semicolon to show that that will be the end of our query, as it were. Then inside of the parentheses, that's when we want to define our table. So we have student ID, student underscore ID, then integer is the type. Maybe let me try to make sure that it's in capital letters so that it's distinct from the identifiers for our tables and databases. Then we also want to have first underscore name. So this one is going to be a variable character. Maybe let's set it to a maximum of 50 characters. Then we're also going to have the last name, I think. Yeah, last name. It's also going to be a variable character. We can also set the length to 50 as well for this one. Then if we come back to the databases, you actually see, rather to the table, you see that student ID is the primary key. So we have to put that constraint in our table definition, as it were. So let's specify the primary key as student ID. So we can put bracket like that, and we say student ID. Make sure I spell student ID correctly there. So student ID is going to be our primary key, as it were. Then yeah, this is how we create the student table. We can actually go ahead and run the script as it is right now, so that we can actually see the student table being created. So let's actually go ahead and run the script, and you see that we get a green check mark, meaning to say that our query doesn't have any errors. And if we come inside of tables, if I double click on tables here, I want to see I wanted to inspect. All right, maybe I'll show you later on. What I want to do now is let's go ahead and create the other table, which is the test table, basically. So I can comment this out so that next time when I run this script, it doesn't create the table twice. So let's create for the other table, create table called test, and inside of the test table we want to have what is it, test ID, description, and total marks. All right, so we want to have test underscore ID as an integer. Then we want to have the description. This one is going to be a variable character. We can set this one to maybe 100 characters. Okay, so it seems description is a keyword in SQL, that's why it's highlighted in purple. So maybe let me just descript, or maybe let's describe. It's also I remember it's an SQL keyword. Descript, maybe let me just say descript so that it doesn't conflict. One of the ways that you can actually escape that is to make use of the backticks in SQL. So if I use backticks, it's not going to be considered a keyword, but I don't want to cause any more confusion, as it were. So let me just use descript rather, just like that. Then what was that one? We had total marks. This one is an integer, and the primary key for this particular table is going to be test ID, so we can put test ID there as the primary key. I'm used to saving my scripts, so that's why you see the save pop-up icon, the pop-up window rather, showing up, is because I'm pressing Ctrl S whenever I finish typing. But we actually don't need to save this because it's a throwaway script, as it were. All right, so this is how you create the table called test, right? Which is 3 or 4, was it 3? Yeah, it is 3 fields: test ID, description, and total marks, right? And the last line there, we're just defining the primary key. So let's go ahead and run this. You see that we've created that particular table there. So yeah, that's just about it for, no, we still have one more table to create, I believe. We need to create the student test table right there. So let's finish with that. Make sure I just comment this out so that it's not going to be run the next time around. So let's have create table. The name of the table is student test because it's a junction table, as it were. So put parentheses there. Then student ID, yes, student ID, test ID, and mark. Student ID, it's an integer, just as before. Then we have test ID, test underscore ID, it's also an integer, just as before. Then we have mark, which is also an integer. I'm used to saving my work, so I can't help but press Ctrl S every time I finish typing. All right, now you see something interesting here. So if you remember database notation, something that is underlined like student ID and test ID, it's a primary key, is it? Here we also have it's a composite key because it's composed of two keys that are making the primary key. So we have student ID and test ID. So we actually have to account for that when we are creating our table here. So what we need to do is we need to set the primary key. It's going to be a combination of 2 fields, is it? So we have to specify that. So we have student ID, comma, test underscore ID. That's our primary key. Then we also have to specify that these keys, they are referencing other tables. So the way we go about it is to say foreign key student ID. Make sure I spell student ID here correctly so that I can just copy it and paste it, do it the lazy way. Paste there. So foreign key references, we make use of the references keyword there. So it references the student table, and it's referencing to the same field called student ID, right? So that's how you tie this table to the student table, as it were. So you also need to do the same for the test table. So foreign key, then it's test underscore ID. Let me just copy it. It's always a good idea to do it the lazy way sometimes. References. So this one's referencing the test table, is it? So test table, and it's directly communicating to, or it's being directly tied to the test ID table, is it? So this is how you create this junction table that links the two tables to this junction table, is it? So that's the script there. So let's go ahead and run this query, and you see that we don't get any issues, is it? So effectively our tables are now created. Our database now is the three tables: the student table, the test table, and the student test table, as it were. So yeah, that's just about it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one.